Hello tacticians, it's Nox here, and today we're going to be looking at the brand new Guild Raid boss, Magnus the Red. And oh boy, is he going to cause some issues. But before I get into him, I just want to say my usual thank yous, and today they go to Arness, Alex, Almost No Regrets, and Tacticus. All of you have used my friend code, and it is very much appreciated, as it really does help me out. So, thank you once again. And now, let's have a look at the side bosses first. Starting with Thaumachus, as you reduce his health, he will then have the following impact on Magnus the Red. The copies that Magnus creates with Trees of Tzeentch have 25% less health, and we'll get to those copies when we look at Magnus, and you'll be seeing why you're going to want to reduce their health. On top of that, it will remove the occult terminators from the battlefield. The gaze will deal less damage. And finally, one last rubric marine is removed from the battlefield. Now, as we know against the other bosses, getting rid of those adds really does help the main battle. So you're definitely going to want to do that. As for the traits, we've seen them before. As with all bosses, it is immune. And like all Tzeentch characters, it has the Weaver of Fates, where in any turn where 3 or more enemy units, that's your guys, who have taken psychic damage, this unit will deal the maximum possible damage. So you really want to get rid of any psychers that he may have on the battlefield. It can also fly, and of course it is a psyker. And the two skills are the Attempted Possession and Arcane Shield that we're very familiar with from our own units. The one to pay attention to is the Illusions of Tzeentch, which I've got on the side here, which means at the start of the battle, it creates a copy of your team to fight for him. Copies have the same stats and ability levels as the original units, and as long as one of these copies is on the battlefield, reduce all incoming damage to Thaumachus by 66%. However, when a copied character is defeated for the first time, he will lose a certain amount of health. And of course, what health it loses will all depend on what level of the raid boss that you're dealing with. So let's have a little look at what this might look like. So weirdly, I haven't tested this very much. I've actually got Maktep in here. And the reason for that is, of course, he'll enable their team to move further forward too. So we'll put Rayvas on the high ground and support him with Manius Calgar and go into Overwatch and put everyone else further up. Now, this obviously isn't the best team. It's just something I've had a bit of fun with, just so I can show you what you could possibly do. But what you want to do, of course, is purely up to you. But as you can see, the amount of damage done by killing these mirror images of your own is actually very good. But let's continue with the game. We will let them come to us and move back. And they avoided it. That's fairly annoying. But let's see what we can do now. We'll howl. And let's make short work of some of these. Now, obviously, once Thaumachus is down, one thing I've not thought of is, does Galatian actually reduce the damage on Thaumachus? So here we can see that Khan's going to do 2,776, but can we kill this guy? Ooh, probably not. Well, that went badly. Let's continue, you never know. Okay, he goes down. I'm in a terrible position, but this is just something I've thought of as it's occurred. And we'll go... Where should we go? Let's block off this approach to Khan. And then it goes to 2,856, which I think is slightly different. So it looks like Galatian will have an effect on the amount of damage that he can take, which is something you may wish to bear in mind. The second side boss is Abraxas, and as you deal damage to him, it will reduce the amount of damage that Magnus does, and also remove the additional enemies from the battlefield when you fight Magnus. So both of these side bosses are worthwhile to remove. And again, we have the usual traits of Immune, the Weaver of Fates, and Psyker, and again, his abilities are those of the character. His special ability as a boss fight is the first time there are no allied demons on the battlefield, and as you can see, he starts with 9 pink horrors. Abraxas will summon 9 Screamers onto random hexes on the battlefield. When a friendly demon is defeated, Abraxas loses health. As long as there are friendly demons on the battlefield, all incoming damage to Abraxas is reduced by 66%. So the trick here is to basically kill the demons before you kill Abraxas. So again, Overwatch Ulf is going to be especially useful here, and anything which can deal damage to a large number of enemies in one go. So let's have a look at this guy on the battlefield. So just a couple of things, because of course all of this is psychic damage, Varro may actually find his way in, as his Psychic Fortress gives an additional block chance to reduce psychic damage. So it might be a good idea, but I'm just doing this to show you what could be expected from these characters. Obviously put Ray Vass on Overwatch, and one thing I should have done is obviously put Marnius Calgar next, but never mind. So as you can see, even though those Screamers are targeting the front drone, the amount of damage hitting Ravas is minimal thanks to the Psychic Fortress. And of course Ravas killed off a number of pink horrors there, as well as doing some damage to Abraxas. And what we're going to do, we'll just start chopping, and let's get rid of the rest. And there come all the Screamers, and you saw there Ulf just chopping one down as it appeared next to him. At this point you can either concentrate on Abraxas or kill the demons. I would advise to kill the demons, basically because of the fact that the damage is reduced whilst they're on the battlefield, and when you kill them, they'll take off a decent chunk of health. So kill them how you see fit. Hopefully you'll do better than I am. But remember, these are only Diamond 1 characters, and I'm sure yours are probably geared up better than these are. Didn't mean to bring them on, but it looks like that worked out. And continue the killing spree, and then once all of them are dead, focus on Abraxas and deal as much damage as you can. And finally, the main man, Demon himself. He'll start off with the usual we're used to, the Immune, the Weaver of Fate, Caesar, unsurprisingly a big target and a demon, also has flying and is a Psyker. But then come his abilities. He's got Tzeentch's Firestorm, where he marks all hexes exactly 2 hexes away from Magnus in a ring around him. At the beginning of his next turn, all enemy units on marked hexes receive flame damage. For the next 2 turns, the process repeats, reducing the ring radius by 1 and increasing the hits to enemies in each marked hex by 3 each turn. Magnus can move independently of the ring after the initial turn of casting, so we'll see that in action in a little bit. Treason of Tzeentch. He will teleport an enemy character to another random hex and creates a copy of that character in its old location. The copy fights on the side of Magnus, and once the side bosses are destroyed, will have 50% of the original maximum health. All other stats and ability levels are identical. Then the Blade of Magnus, which again gets reduced by the side bosses, where he deals psychic damage to a target enemy within 2 hexes, and all enemies adjacent to it, so you're going to want to keep your guys spread out. This damage is then increased if the affected units are on fire hexes. The Gaze of Magnus, and again this is an ability which is reduced in damage as the side bosses are defeated. At the end of each of his turns, Magnus turns his gaze upon an enemy character, choosing a Psyker if possible. At the beginning of Magnus's next turn, if that character is a Psyker or attacked by Magnus while under the gaze, he'll then take additional psychic damage. And if they are a Psyker, they're also stunned for a round, and this scores an additional hit for each turn in a row that Magnus attacks the same target with a gaze. So because he's going to try and choose other Psykers, Eldrian is not going to be favoured here. He has Psychic Dominion, where he takes 66% less psychic damage and deals an additional 66% damage against Psykers. And if that wasn't enough, each turn the 9th attack and every 9th additional attack against Magnus deals 90% less damage. Now that is only the 9th attack, so hitting him multiple times still has its own payoff. So the Adeptus Mechanicus are probably going to be quite good against this guy. So let's have a look at him in action. And just to give you an idea of how many characters are removed as you defeat the side bosses, here on the right we have the side bosses on full health, and on the left you can see there are fewer on the battlefield to cause you any trouble. So I've got a fairly standard AdMech team here which I'm going to use, and I'm just going to try and kill off these Rubric Marines by putting Ravas in Overwatch and killing the one next to Outtro here. And we'll let the enemy have their turn. So the Rubric Marines do not too much damage at shooting. And Magnus has come down to swipe at one of my drones, which I don't mind too much. Now, he's put the gaze of Magnus on Ravas, which means Ravas should not attack Magnus, because if he does, he will take psychic damage at the beginning of Magnus' next turn if it attacked Magnus while under the gaze, or if he's a Psyker. So he's not a Psyker, but if I attack him, he'll take psychic damage. So we'll just spend some time maybe shooting this Occult Terminator over here. Outtro can go in, and there's 3 people here, so we're going to switch to the other Doctrine and get 3 shots off at Magnus so Outtro can give him a good slap. And we'll do it again, and we'll shoot at Magnus with Show Cell. So the one trick you can use with the Biovore, you can launch it on the Echoes and it will destroy the Echo. And also, it will distract one of the Occult Terminators. So it's kind of a win-win. It's a great one to use against Magnus. And here is one of his special attacks, the Tzeentch Firestorm. And with this, you are not going to be wanting to stand in the ring because it's going to do quite a bit of flame damage. Now, the flame itself doesn't pierce much, but when you combine it with the fact that it gets more hits as it contracts, and his normal attack does more damage if you're standing in fire, standing in that ring is the worst place to be. However, it will contract, and that means it'll contract first, then he attacks, so you really don't want to be next to him in next turn, especially not Outtro now, because he is now marked with the gaze of Magnus, so he does not want to attack Magnus, and he's going to go off somewhere else to attack the Occult Terminators. There's one down, and we can't put the Spore Mine here because it's obviously next to Magnus. But what we can do is put it at the top and hopefully distract the Terminator a bit more. Otherwise we just move back and attack where we can. Now any summons in this ring are basically just going to die like that. And Outtro took a large amount of damage there, so I'm going to have to heal him up. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to him. Maybe I can. Again, let's keep this Occult Terminator distracted. And I've just realised my mistake. Outtro has got the Gaze of Magnus on him, and he's attacked Magnus. So I'm not going to attack him again, or does it even matter? Let's have a look. So no, he's already attacked, so I may as well attack again. But Magnus is now going to do a large amount of damage with that Psychic, nearly killing him. In fact, he did die. And here is the summon that Magnus can create. So he's created a summon of Ravas. Now Ravas normally has 5,200 health, and okay, this guy has been damaged a bit, but normally he'll start with half the health if both side bosses are destroyed. And of course, you don't want a shadow of Ravas to hang around because it will go into Overwatch and ruin your day. And I've attacked Magnus again with Ravas, obviously on purpose, to show you how much damage this gaze can actually do and why you shouldn't attack him. And there you go, Ravas is dead. So you really have to keep track of who has the gaze and make sure they don't attack Magnus. It might not be so punishing if you've got Diamond 2 and 3 characters, but certainly at Diamond 1, you're going to have to be careful. And that's just a very brief overview of Magnus, and he's going to be coming to the game very soon indeed. The one thing I can do to help you along is my monthly competition for the Scroll Throne. And all that you need to do to enter is obviously make sure you're subscribed and leave a message in the comments below about which teams you are going to try to take down Magnus with. I'll reveal the results on the first video I do on or after the 23rd of September, so best of luck, and I look forward to hearing what teams you come up with. If you like these videos, then it would be much appreciated if you at least think about using my friend code, as it really does help me out. Or if you or your guilds are looking for a new home, please reach out to any of the guilds shown, as we'll always welcome new people into our midst. As always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.